We saw earlier in the week Myles Garrett getting some run with the Cavs Summer League, but Bleacher Report put out this article: most dominant player at every position. At edge rusher, they have T.J. Watt at defensive end there, or at edge rusher from the Pittsburgh Steelers. But they had honorable mention from Myles Garrett, saying Garrett is coming off back-to-back All-Pro campaigns, but he's one short of Watt and doesn't have a recent Defensive Player of the Year honor on his resume. I'm going to go ahead and disagree with that a little bit. Not disagree with the accolades, but disagree with the talent opposite of him in surrounding him on the rest of that defense. Again, Myles Garrett's been kind of going through different regimes, or at least different groups of players that have been coming in. Now this year, obviously, getting more starters. But to talk about that, we bring in Spencer German from 92.3 The Fan. And, Spencer, I got to say, I know that T.J. Watt, extremely talented player. I'm not disrespecting him. But, again, for Myles Garrett, it feels like, the situation surrounding Myles at this point hasn't quite been to what T.J. Watt has had at this point.
I see what you're saying. I'm going to push back a little bit in that. Listen, here's the thing, and this is not begrudging Myles Garrett at all, because I think the world of Myles Garrett as a player. I think he's obviously uber talented. If he's not better than T.J. Watt from a skill set standpoint, it's like 1A and 1B, right? Like, those two guys clearly deserve to be in this conversation in general, just because they're both so dominant at their respective positions. But I think the accolades do matter here, Mac. Like, you go out and win a Defensive Player of the Year, you go out and tie the single season sack record. Mind you, he did it in T.J. Watt. He did it in less games than what the regular season even allowed. He did it in 15 games. So if he plays in those other two games, maybe he even breaks it. Like, of course, that stuff is going to put you a cut above the rest of the competition. Meanwhile, with Myles Garrett, like, yeah, he's had some injury issues over the years. I know he played in every game last year, and that's a great step for him. He had his highest sack numbers last year when he did. So I think if he continues on the trajectory he's been on, if he can stay healthy next year and he can get in that conversation, maybe win a Defensive Player of the Year, I would be willing to put him past T.J. Watt. But I think at this point, Watt has the accolades, Watt has the numbers, and just the ridiculousness of what he's been able to do in his career, even in less games than some other players, where I think he certainly warrants the honor. And again, it's nothing against Myles Garrett. I said it off the rip here, like 1A and 1B, but I think I understand why T.J. Watt gets that edge just slightly.
Don't you try to cover your bases. Come on now. Come on. I know what you're trying to do. I mean, Spence, when it comes to the Steelers, though, this year, and with T.J. Watt, do you think that, there's going to be more pressure put on him because of the fact that you have, Kenny Pickett leading the offense at this point? Kenny Pickett or Mitch Trubisky, again, we don't know at this point. Do you think that there's more expectations put on that defense, especially, with them losing other pieces?
Oh, 100%. We know, like, that Steelers team this year is kind of, I mean, obviously they had Ben Roethlisberger, so it's hard to say like this is the same as those teams. But the Steelers have always been known as a defensive franchise, right? That's their bread and butter. They build through their defense. They stack that side of the ball, and then they hope to kind of fill in the cracks on offense and find that franchise quarterback. They got fortunate where they hit on Ben Roethlisberger and have had the success they've had over the last decade plus now with him. Obviously, he rides off into the sunset. So they're hoping for that again with Kenny Pickett. I know the conversation isn't specifically about what we think of him, but knowing, it's a rookie quarterback and he could be maybe thrown into the fire there. There's going to be some growing pains. There could be a situation where they miss on him completely and he's not the next guy. We know that defense is going to carry that group. It's the reason why I think they still, in some people's eyes, can't be written off in this division. I would dispute that, but I understand why people are feeling that way. Because when you have a defense that good, you have a great defensive mind in Mike Tomlin, for sure, you're going to garner some conversation and some respect. But, yeah, that defensive group's going to have to carry that group, most notably T.J. Watt. So there's certainly a lot more pressure on him to get to dominate in games in order to give the Steelers a chance to have any success in the division, in the NFL this year, and maybe even be a playoff team. If they're going to do that, it's going to be about him for sure.